Yes. Good morning to you. Welcome to the morning show. Happy Wednesday. We out here. Spencer, JC, Steve, Alfonso, full crew. Lots to discuss. Earnings, obviously, right? Tesla, Alphabet, Visa, a bunch more. Most of them down this morning. A couple of them up. Most of them down. But I know we don't really care about like the overnight reaction, but still interesting nonetheless. So we'll walk through these reports and walk through the charts, and we'll talk about maybe more to talk about the debut of the Ethereum ETFs yesterday, because they had some nice flows. Not quite as big as the Bitcoin ETF debuts, but still nice nonetheless. And our guest today, David Rath, will be on the show. He hasn't been on for quite some time. So partner and CIO at Continuum Wealth Advisors. He'll be on at 9. Well, of course, we're joined by Kenny as always, and Mary joins us every Wednesday. And that is the rundown for the show. So do me a favor, chat, hit the thumbs up button. I would appreciate that. It would make my day. The more likes, the better. And let's bring the guys on and get the show on the road. Let's boogie.
All right, we out here. What's up? Happy Wednesday, hump day. How things?
Things are good.
Markets are moving. Strazza's upset. He's typing harder than ever. They can hear you. They can hear you 3 rooms away, Strazza.
I'm typing to you.
Let me ask you something. Does Strazza, when he goes to buy like a keyboard, like do you ask for like the loudest one? Like do you pay extra for the loud one?
No, I know what the loudest one is. It's called Ducky is the brand.
Ducky. So you want to make sure to have the most obnoxious keyboard possible.
I have the most beautiful keyboard. I'll take a picture.
I feel like you're like one of those people who like in the back of their car puts like the muffler that makes like really loud noises. Like it doesn't mean the car's moving faster. Just like it doesn't mean that your writing is any better just because it's louder, right? Like are you one of those like loud muffler people? Like on like
have I told this story on here before, Spencer?
Like a Honda, like on a Honda Accord. You can.
I don't like the loud engine people. You know.
Are you overcompensating your loud keyboard for other things? Strazza?
Can I tell my quick story though? I don't know if I've ever told it on this show. My cat's making a mess. I had a manager at my first job, and we all worked in an audit room, and there would be 10 of us all smelling each other in this small little audit room on the 3rd floor of the Interactive Brokers building. And when she was mad at somebody, the whole room knew it because she would just bang on her keyboard, and she broke 2 keyboards. My first busy season, getting mad at people and typing to them loudly in the audit room. So I do know what you're talking about. Those people exist. I'm not one of them. I'm gonna type loud no matter what I'm typing.
All right. So let's get into the markets because I have the best chart. So
yeah. Do you? All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got the Dow futures down 0.5%, down 180 points, still above 40,400. You got S&P futures down 1%, 55.50 for S&Ps. Nasdaq down 1.5%. We're going to talk about technology on a relative basis, getting back to those former highs from March of 2000. Only took 24 years. So Nasdaq down 300 points this morning. That's 1.5%. 30-year bond futures flat. Crude oil up 1%, back up towards 78. Copper down again, almost 0.5%, 4.15. Gold up 50 bips, 24.20. Silver up 50 bips, 29.5, with the volatility index right around 15.5. Over in the old funny money, you got Bitcoin up almost 1%, 66,550. Ethereum, after the ETF launched, is down 0.5%, under 3,500 slightly. Solana hanging in there, Strazza, hanging in there nice, 178, up another 3% this morning. Binance flat on the day, but 584 hanging in there. Total crypto market cap, Spencer Israel, 2.37 trillion.
Same as yesterday.
Just about.
Yeah, a little.
Oh. So what stands out before we get into the best chart in the world?
The Nasdaq selling off this morning, right?
Nasdaq selling off. Well-deserved sell-off or
So this is a lot of Tesla though, right? It's a lot of Tesla, plenty of
Is it?
Google as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of Tesla and Google in here. I mean, they're all going though, right? It's bringing the whole space down. Hour till the open here, and a lot of big down 1%, 2%, and things like Micron, ARM, Nvidia, AMD.
Tesla's 2.5% of the Qs? Is that a lot? Google's a bigger.
Yeah.
Google's much bigger. Google's more.
Yeah,
than
but they're
twice as
both
big.
down. That's the point. They're both down.
Yeah. All right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let them dance. Let them dance. All right. Here's the best chart in the world. Throw it up. Slide 2. Throw it up. Let them see it. Everybody take a look. Here we go. Want to zoom in a little?
I keep seeing variations of this same idea, but explain.
Zoom in there. Take our mugs off.
Okay.
Zoom in there.
What's it all mean?
Stop it, Fonz.
What does
What's
it
it
mean?
What's it all mean, Basil? Right. To me, it means the offense is on the field, right? I mean, it's really that simple. So it probably means that we should keep calling our offensive plays, right? We're not going to be calling a blitz or a prevent of victory defense, right? We're not doing any of those things. And this is the offense on the field. So we got your large cap financials making new highs, new all-time highs. Mid cap financials making new highs, small cap financials making new highs, all the way down the cap scale. Financials are a leadership group. So when you go back and you study all the times that financials were a leadership group, has that historically been evidence of deteriorating markets, weak markets, or has that historically been evidence of a healthy market environment where investors are being rewarded for owning stocks, right? In my experience, people in cash tend to be penalized. Like, remember these fools bragging about their 5% risk-free? No, you idiots. The risk was what you just missed. All that money you left on the table for your risk-free. That was the risk. That was the risk, fools. You got to incorporate opportunity costs in your risk profile. So while they're running around bragging about their 5% risk-free, you look like an idiot. You look like an idiot. So that's my take. Is that harsh or is that fair?
No,
harsh or fair?
It's good, but I think it's important to let's take a step back. You guys saw the headlines from yesterday. Like, you know what's going on here with the banks right now?
Are you asking me if I know what's going on with the banks?
Yes. So
they're making new highs?
No, banks are one of those groups where the party in office kind of matters, right? They get very different treatment from the two political parties, depending who's in office. So investors are excited for this group right now. They're excited for...
Which political party, excuse my ignorance, which political party is better for banks?
Okay. I'm not even gonna...
the one that's better for most big business.
So anyway.
And then so what is the one that's better for big business? So Republicans. So Republicans are better for banks, is what you're saying?
Sorry.
Yes, we have lots of...
Why are Democrats bad for banks?
Because they want to put people in office who regulate the banks that are from Harvard or are career politicians or economics PhDs, right? Why
Democrats do that, Republicans don't do that?
You see, it's a regulation thing. One party wants more, one party wants less. It really is that simple.
Yeah.
And then the party that wants more regulation picks on the banks?
They picked on them 15 years ago, and it's really never been undone. And it's kind of like low-hanging fruit at this point to undo some of those old financial crisis emergency regulations. So the whispers yesterday were Jamie Dimon or Larry Fink for Treasury Secretary. Think about how these companies do when they're regulated by one of their own versus being regulated by a Tim Geithner. Big difference. So I think this just continues to put a bid in the banks. Plus, you got the rate stuff going on. It's all coming together at the same time.
It's like Hank Paulson. I remember back in the day, people getting very excited when Hank Paulson was coming in because he was coming from Goldman. Yes. So they're like, it's one of us, and they get it, as opposed to people who live in theory.
Not only do they get it, I think they are more likely to enact sound policy for these companies, but there's that dynamic of helping out your friends. This is politics.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Also helping out your friends, right? Returning some favors from back in the day. Yeah, that's true. All right. So what do we want? What do we want as Americans? We want Jamie Dimon.
I think he would be good. I
Yeah.
think he would be great. I don't think he would want the job.
No chance.
But I think he'd be excellent. I think Jamie Dimon probably thinks of himself as more of a future presidential candidate than a Treasury Secretary.
But wouldn't becoming Treasury Secretary be part of the path to get to presidency?
It might, or it might backfire, right? You never really know.
All right.
I don't know. But
now we're getting way into it.
The bottom line is this is the way the market's thinking right now. These are the things that are coming across my news feed. This is what traders are talking about. So
can we get back to the best chart in the world?
Yeah. But my point has a lot to do with the price action.
Because for all intents and purposes, we have a Republican in the presidency right at this point, right? I think it's all baked in the cake. So
that's what the market is thinking. So
right.
Yeah.
So if we have a Republican for the next 4.5 years for all intents and purposes. I did see Biden yesterday, so shout out Biden. Didn't look great, but he's still alive, so that's a win. Right.
And, when we always say these things about like, oh, don't worry about the party, the solar stocks aren't going to do good under the Democrats. The coal stuff doesn't do good under the Republicans. Well, can it have a lot to do with like the kind of price action that we've seen over the past few weeks? Because when we go back and backtest this 10 years from now, we're going to count all of these massive gains from the banks and the financials as Biden's price.
That's a great point, Steve.
What happens? The market's forward looking. It pulls things forward. And prices things in long before they happen.
Good point, Steve.
Why our back tests for politics never really work.
Biden was great for the banks. Who knew?
Right.
All right.
Who knew?
Let's bring it back. Let's talk about Tesla before we bring Kenny on here.
Yeah, bring on Tesla, and I got another chart to go with it. But yeah, throw up the Tesla.
All right. Where's that Tesla chart? So
reminder.
Right. Reminder. We already knew that deliveries for last quarter were good because they came out at the beginning of the month, and that's kind of what kickstarted that big move higher.
Allegedly.
Okay, fine. The rest of the numbers for the quarter, not so great. Okay. The earnings per share missed. The revenue beat, but still down 2% on a year-over-year basis. Automotive revenue down.
All right, settle down. Strazza, isn't this one of those stocks where like the earnings, it's not really about the earnings?
Yeah, it's a
story. I'm getting there. Give me a minute. I'm getting there. Automotive revenue down 7%. Like I said, the deliveries were good, but it turns out if you offer a shit ton of discounts, it juices your deliveries, but it hurts your margins. So that kind of hurt their profitability there. They did have some good news in terms of their like other revenue stuff, like their energy revenue and all that. That was pretty good. The bottom line here is very simple. And Elon basically said it. He was like, you either believe that Tesla will solve automation or you don't. And that's the story. Like they're kind of in the same position, a similar position at least to where like Meta/Facebook was a few years ago when they pivoted away from just Facebook and now we're all about like the metaverse. Tesla's like moving on or trying to move on from being just a car company, right? If they ever even were, right? And now it's really just about automation. And you either believe that they are going to solve that with robo-taxis and whatever the hell these humanoid robots are, or you don't think that. And it's really one or the other. And the earnings, the numbers are what they are, but that's the bottom line with Tesla is from a story standpoint, you either think it's automation or you don't think they got it, and that's pretty much it.
Uber's been giving us information about what the market thinks about this automation story. It's down slightly today on this, but it has been moving a lot with these developments. And Elon's probably right. And if you bet against him in the past, over time, you've been wrong every time. So we'll see.
Let's just remember something. And I think people forget because people have low attention spans and they don't remember what they did yesterday. Stock went from 30 billion to 1.3 trillion.
Right.
In a little over 2 years. $30 billion market cap to 1.3 trillion in a little over 2 years.
Yeah, because they invented a new vehicle category, right?
It doesn't matter why. There was more buying pressure than selling pressure. I don't even know what a new vehicle category even means. The point is the amount of value went from 30 billion to 1.3 trillion in 2 years. A very well-deserved multi-year digestion of those gains is what we're witnessing here, folks. Like, let's put things in perspective here. These are rounding errors. in comparison to the value that was created. So let's let this market digest those gains. We've certainly see it, and it's been off to the races. I continue to like buying this dip. I'm in. I love that it's selling off. If you missed that initial rally, here's your chance. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm telling you what I think makes a lot of sense. You know, the upside here, the risk here is that this is the next $3 trillion company and you're not in it, right? And the underlying trend is up. And consolidations like this historically resolve in the direction of the underlying trend, which has very much been up. So again, to put things in perspective here, deliveries, shipments, Elon for president, whatever. Elon can't be president. He wasn't born here, right?
So here's
Correct.
a good one.
And he's way too young, right?
What?
No, he's not American. He's not American.
No.
So he would never be president anyway.
He's not 80.
From the Bernstein.
He's not 80, not allowed.
Okay, so this is the way I'm positioned and the way I'll continue to be positioned, and we'll see. But I love this note from Bernstein. If you believe what Elon said about his robo-taxi, sell Uber. If you live in the real world, buy Uber. We will know more on 1010.
On 1010, what's 1010?
That's
report.
That's Tesla's. That's their new date. I should say tentative date for their robo-taxi event, because they already pushed it back once. So
I love that. I think that's
one more slide. Next slide, please, my good man. Not Tesla, not a tech stock. It's a consumer discretionary stock. But you know, we can argue back and forth. Is Tesla in the New York Stock Exchange? No, Tesla doesn't trade on the New York Stock Exchange.
nope.
I don't know.
But Tesla would not be on the New York Stock Exchange Tech Index. Do you need to trade on the New York Stock Exchange to be on the New York Stock Exchange Tech Index?
What is the New York Stock Exchange
Yes,
index?
JC.
The New York Stock Exchange Tech Index?
Yeah.
The New York Stock Exchange Tech Index is that index that has companies that the S&P doesn't include in tech.
Mm-hmm.
So like Meta, for example, is in the New York Stock Exchange Tech Index. Netflix is in the New York Stock Exchange Tech Index.
Those are in the S&P 500 Tech Index too.
No, they're not. Netflix is communications. So is Meta. So is Alphabet, for that matter. Alphabet is not a tech stock, but it's on the New York Stock Exchange Tech Index. So
we have so many indexes. Do we really need another one for this?
I don't know if you heard, but the New York Stock Exchange has been around longer than Standard & Poor's. So if anything, you should tell Standard & Poor's that we don't need them, right? But the New York Stock Exchange was there first. So show your respect. This disrespect for the New York Stock Exchange, it will not stand.
Here's the truth. In the real world, as Bernstein would say, you should really care about the stuff that you're buying or investing in or trading, right? And that's going to be things like XLK, not the New York Stock Exchange.
Great. So here's the XLK relative to the S&P 500, getting all the way back to those March 2000 highs. Only took 24 years only. Now we're back. Is it going to matter? Does it matter? Do we sell off from here because there's resistance, or because it was 24 years ago, it don't matter no more?
No, this is, we've seen prices react to these .com bubble highs for the past couple of years, right? Semiconductors paused before they got through. You could look at even the NASDAQ IWM kind of ratios. You're seeing some pauses at this key level. So yeah, this is big. This to me says, what a logical place for tech to take the back seat for a while. Right?
Financials as the leadership group. Man, haven't seen that in a minute. I remember early in my career, 05, 06.
Yeah.
I mean, these Mother Merrill, Lehman Brothers. I mean, these were the best stocks. Bear Stearns, like these were the best stocks. And like you haven't been able to say that for a long time. Until more recently.
It's cool, but let's see how long it lasts. You know, I'm a skeptic on how long a run like this could be sustained by these kinds of companies.
Well, let's just keep it let's just keep you want to keep it 100. The great financial crisis was in 2007, right? And then you know what we can do? Since we have the data, we can show everybody sort of the history here. So the great financial crisis was in 2007, 2008,
7, 8, 9.
early 2009. Here, throw up this chart here. This tells the story nicely. Then we'll bring on Mr. Glick.
The Warlock?
Yeah. So here it is. So this is the one. So what do you got? You got the 07 highs back there. We got back there in 18 and failed. Got back there in late 19, early 2020 and failed. We broke out in 2021, made new all-time highs, and then did nothing for 2 years. And now just are breaking out now to new highs.
Yep.
So when we talk about, like, is this sustainable? I mean, we went 14 years with nothing. Broke out to a new high finally. Now have gone, how long has it been? Since it's now been 30 months of nothing.
Sure.
Right. So 14 years of nothing. Breakout, 30 months of nothing. That's 2.5 years for you math majors.
Yeah.
And now we're getting going. So, like,
it's not nothing for everybody. Not people that bought this thing in 2009.
Shut up, Spencer. That was a terrible. That was terrible. We're all gonna pretend you didn't. That was really something. No, Spencer. People were selling in 2009. You see, they were puking. That's what that.
All
see
right,
that
fine,
red line
fine,
crashing
fine,
there
fine.
on the left side of the chart. That's what that
2010.
was. No, Spencer. The point is, 14 years of nothing, a breakout to new highs, 30 months of nothing, and now here we are. So one can argue that this is just getting going. Am I mean to Spencer? Is that mean? Or that was really dumb, right?
Listen, you can't
It could
argue.
be both. It could be both. I could be mean and that was dumb.
Yeah, that's probably the most fair. I think that you can't ignore this kind of structural pattern. You're right in everything you're saying. I'm just a skeptic. You know, it's been a long time since you've been.
You were in diapers when financials were, right?
I was in these offices early in my career, and I know how strapped they are, and I know how, their fundamental outlooks have changed over the past decade and a half.
And despite all of that, they're still making new all-time highs.
I'm skeptical that they could get back to a place where you see some real earnings growth that can drive them to a future where they're leading, for an extended cycle or something like that. Something like we've seen from technology lately. We'll see, though, right? You just got to keep an open mind about these things. I'm excited.
My mind is open.
I'm excited. I'm just skeptical. That's all. The charts look great. Throw up the big six.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay because everyone was buying in March of 2009, so it's fine.
I wasn't. Were you?
I was in a little bit late. I was in like in April.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. It depends, right? Because I was managing separately managed accounts. So there were some guys that we were getting in February, were a little early, and then there were some that we were getting in after the fact. But I'll tell you what, I had one client and we got in a little bit early and he was puking at the lows in March. And, there's a story, I'm not going to mention who it was, but somebody tells a story and he's a sell-side analyst, institutional sell-side analyst. And this is like literally March the 9th. Like this is the day Biggie died, right? And it was like the low. And he's in the bathroom in a stall talking to his client, trying to walk him off the ledge, selling General Electric that day.
Yeah.
And he puked out the General Electric on that day. And when you go back and you look at the volume of GE, it looks like a pyramid and peaking on that March 9th puke low. That was the client dumping GE at that low. And I've heard this story from this particular gentleman multiple times, but that's real life, folks. Real life.
All right.
Hey, should we talk about GE or should we just
later?
Yeah,
Later. I
I
want to bring Kenny on. Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. They ain't come from my club, they took it. Putting up numbers, 99 pounds, and I still kept it 100. Hold up. Yeah.
Mr. Glick, the NASDAQ is selling off. It does happen. It does happen. Oh, he's got to unmute himself. Kenny, first timer?
I always assume you guys got my back. I'm just talent, man. What's up? You guys got to click the buttons for me.
Ha 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 ha. We already got you your blue M&Ms, only blue M&Ms. We did get that for you.
That's right. I was just checking my notes about the March 09. You know who was buying that day? Big Al, my dad. And you mentioned GE. We had the conversation as the market was cratering and everything was getting thrown out. They were talking about how GE was going to be, the next to go to zero because of GE Capital. And then my dad and I were talking. I'm like, they still make airplane stuff, right? And refrigerators. Let's buy GE. It was at $5. We bought GE and Bank of America both at $5. And we said to each other, I'll be the one who sells it as soon as it goes to $7.50. My dad will be the one who holds it till it goes back to all-time highs. And that's the story. And that's the story I'm sticking to. My dad is the original buy on dippers. So, and then going back to that Tesla story, I was checking my notes. And again, if you're thinking about buying the dip, it depends on your perspective. The reason I bought Tesla in the first place was that I thought this guy would colonize Mars. And for every 100 shares of Tesla that you own, you'll get Mars eventually. And I'm sticking to that story as well. And I'm going to name my acre Otisburg. So
you own Tesla, you get a piece of Mars.
Yeah,
that's a reason to buy a stock. Listen, it's a better reason than I hear most of the time, to be fair.
Right. And I'm sticking to that story too. And again, I just got off the phone with somebody that's been buying Tesla dips forever and done very well. I don't want to buy the dip today. I don't. I want to see if they could bleed this thing down to the 208 area, because that would be really, really nice. But if they're going to buy the dip today, it's sitting here right under the VWAP, and that's my game. I mean, I like when stocks are down below VWAP on earnings reports. And the reason I like it today, and I actually kind of like it right this second, that it hasn't gotten anything going over VWAP so far this morning. So the first attempt was around the 227. Now you're at 225.30. So now I might give it a shot to 226 using the lows of the pre-market as my out. But I'd rather see this market roll over and get really, really scary, because the Qs, again, have broke below those recent lows. And I have some charts that say, we can break down to a 3-month low. So, the Qs right now, I'm thinking 462.30, but right smack dab in the middle, we have a gap from the June 11th to the June 12th gap. So if we get in that gap, we got another 10 points down on the Qs, which will probably drag the Tesla. Whether or not the Qs control Tesla or Tesla controls the Qs is a question for the ages, but I still think we're going lower. But again, if you're just a day trader, you're just looking for the action, again, it's a whole different perspective.
I mean, it's 2.5% of the Qs, right? Google's double that. So
Right.
Is Tesla controlling the Qs? I find that hard to believe. It's probably more Google than anything else, unless, Strazza wants to chime in, talk about maybe some of the sympathy selling that you might see in other areas of the NASDAQ because of Tesla, but I'm not so much convinced of that. Let's get out of the tech and NASDAQ sort of arena. What else is standing out?
I got to go back to that serve, because now it's on day 3. This stock actually became something special yesterday, because they did what normally you see on these, low price stocks. They'll do an offering just to ruin everybody's day. But the offering, as much as it got hammered down and then you double bottomed, the buyers showed up again on this stock. So this is very interesting. When the buyers show up again on when you don't think they're going to show up, that's, very bullish. But we're selling it off again today. I'm looking for it to see what happens down there at 750 again on serve. I'll be all over that stock again until it breaks down. I keep these pump and dumps on the radar. But other than that, I'm all about the Qs and EVXY.
Why would you categorize this as a pump and dump, or you say that in jest?
Any stock that goes from $1 to 10, I immediately say pump and dump.
It's probably a good guideline.
Yeah, I mean, if you see a stock up 60%, it's generally, there's something sketchy.
And then the fact that this was a spinoff from Uber being backed by, NVIDIA and everything like that.
Right.
No,
and you know what? These robots have been around. JMU campus already has them, but this is a different company. I think it was called Champion Electronics or something. The guys that did Skype, or the people from Skype, I believe, started a company. And these robots are all around the campus. They got about 75 robots where they just bring the kids the food, and they just roll up on you right to
I see them. They look like R2D2, which is the right? They're like the little
a boxy R2D2. Yeah,
there you go. And they've been around. These things have been around forever. I remember being at a Def Leppard concert in a nice call out there, right?
I'm gonna get in it. Let's go.
I'm at a Def Leppard and REO Speedwagon.
Ooh.
was opening up for them.
I'm
This is
in.
Mountain View, California, which is the home of Google. And I remember pre-gaming. This is like in 2016, so this is like 8 years ago, dude. I'm pre-gaming for the concert in Mountain View, and Google's got like these like self-driving cars just driving around parking lots and stuff like that. Like I vividly remember this.
Yeah,
Right?
they're out there.
Despite my consumption at that moment, you know.
Yeah. REO, baby. Let's go.
Trying to make bad decisions, you know.
The crazy thing is, they're still touring. They're
so old, dude. It's very impressive.
It's
very
like
impressive.
everybody's touring now to the day they can't tour anymore.
My wife, my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, she's like, who are these people?
Yeah. Heard it from a friend who. Come on.
It was good. It was
I
good.
can't wait. I'll be blasting that this weekend. I'm a big fan of the REO. We have a DJ. My daughter still thinks I'm not taking over the DJ duties at the party this weekend. By the way, if anybody's in the New Jersey area, open house, my house on Saturday night. You're welcome
Open
to
house.
come.
Is that still a thing?
Yeah. We got a nitrous tent. It's gonna be sick. What?
I might take you up on that, Kenny. We'll see.
Yeah. Spencer's not that far away.
I'm not that
give us
far.
One more name.
What was I going to look at? I'm looking at the crowd. I did very well with it yesterday. I'm not a fan of those stocks in particular, but
what does that mean? What does that mean? You people? What does that mean?
I'm not a fan of cybersecurity stocks. I believe that they do whatever happens bad on the internet, it's their fault, and then they come to the rescue pretending that they got the fix.
Got it. So they're the arsons, right? Arsons.
Yes.
They're lighting the houses on fire so that they can come and save the day.
Precisely. But I am a fan of stocks that are getting their asses kicked and when they try to come back. So again, another attack at the beginning of the day, and then we just got a real clean break on a VWAP on that one yesterday. So, and then you had another follow-through move later in the day. So I'm going to go see if these levels get tested again, and I'm going to be watching this crowd for another buy. But other than that, I mean, the Q's better put up a fight down here, or we got another 10 points to the downside.
Love it.
All right.
Kenny.
Good luck, my friends.
Adios.
Kenny's room, link below, hitthebid.com. Check it out. The QR code to get his watch list was on the screen before. Speaking of DJs, our next guest at DJ Rath on Twitter. They call it a segue. David Rath. He's here. Let's bring him on and see where the conversation goes.
Jay, we've been friends for a long time. Make the call.
I mean, this is pretty professional, guys.
Nice show you got going here.
David, what's up?
How's it going?
Can we bring up slide 4, Fonz? Because David had a tweet the other day that spoke to me on a personal level. I wanted to bring it up. This didn't quite happen to me, but it basically happens to me like at least twice a week, right? So it really spoke to me. You know, I got a text about the market. Market's doing great today. The market shit the bed today. What's going on? And then so I thought that really hit me. It spoke to me. So thank you.
I deal with that on a regular basis with my father and some other people that are older than me. So yeah.
Because they have too much time.
I guess my dad owns too many tech stocks if I'm not getting those.
Your dad sounds pretty cool.
So what's on your mind, David?
Well, I was thinking back to the last time I was on here. So thanks again, guys, for having me back. And JC threw me a curveball right off the bat about some European sovereign credit spreads. And so I've been up all night studying that, some obscure futures just to be prepared for the show today. But in all seriousness, I think I mentioned to Spencer, been pretty knee deep in some business stuff. That I wear a lot of hats in my job, so haven't been as in depth with the markets as I normally am, or as I would like to be sometimes. But there's a couple things on my mind that I think that are top of mind, and that's the rotation that's occurring underneath the surface here. If you looked at any sort of relative strength chart in the end of June, it was like a blow off top, right? The large cap growth tech, whatever you want to call it, it looked like a blow off top, and now you're seeing that reverse. And so the question I have is this just a counter trend rally, or is it the start of something new? A little part of me thinks that maybe this is the moment where Lucy pulls the football again, And just as everybody's ready to get into small cap value, we see the rotation back into big tech. But this morning, it looks like, the small caps are leading the way. Tech is leading to the downside.
Yeah, we have seen this too many times in the past, these little head fakes on rotation, and then it just goes right back to the leaders, big tech. Can a cycle begin and end and never see any sort of, significant rotation into the lagging groups? Wouldn't that be strange? Don't you think as the bull cycle moves further, like the unloved areas have to catch a bid and participate a little bit?
Yeah, and I think the macro environment is setting up at least for smaller caps because you're seeing the 2-year down to, I think it was 4.5 yesterday. So hopefully some pressure from an interest rate perspective is off of those companies. The rubber band has been stretched really far in one direction. I saw a chart, I think it was from Torsten Slok, that said that this is the lowest, the lowest amount of S&P 500 companies that are outperforming the S&P 500 since 1980. So it's a weird environment, and it had to reverse course at some time. But the question is now, does it keep that momentum sustained into the fall, or do we see it just as the blip on the radar?
And to be clear, we're talking about the relative trends, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Isn't that just a natural development that you would get when certain companies just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger? It's only natural then if the biggest group are bigger than they've ever been, then they of course have more power than they've ever had, so they can push the index around in however they want.
Yeah, that's the idea behind an equal weighted index versus a cap weighted index. But you're going to go through periods of very strong underperformance or very, very, very big underperformance during periods of time. I remember coming into this year, I think the trade that everybody was expecting was the equal weight trade, was the small caps. And it was Dan Russo that pointed out, like, are we also sure about this? And we did see a retest of that level at one point during the year, and then cap weight just took off. Again, it looked like a blow off top if you were just looking at any sort of stock chart. And we've seen that reverse in the last couple of weeks. And I think I would want to see it sustain itself a little bit more before throwing in the towel on cap weight.
I think we got some initiation readings over the past few weeks in those relative relationships. And now we need to see price confirm it, right? Over more of like a primary trend.
Yeah. Yep. And as I said before, we saw this happen previously a few times in the last couple of years, and it just went right back to being large cap tech as the only trade in town. So again, I think that the seeds are sown for some rotation into some smaller capitalization companies, some more value oriented, at least on my screen. Financials, even real estate, that looks good. And a lot of those things are going to be tied to what interest rates do in the future. And so it's still a little early in that game. And again, I want to see that sustain itself before making any sort of decisions.
Are you saying small cap specifically, or just smaller cap than tech, which is everybody?
Yeah, smaller cap. Okay. So you're seeing like the RSP, the equal weight SP 500 show good relative strength. You're seeing small caps in general, even like mid cap growth value. Like it doesn't matter like where you go on the capitalization scale. All of them are seeing a relative strength blip, at least in the overall trend. Want to see that trend reverse though.
So when we talk about the large versus small relationships, I can't help but think about things like growth versus value, which we've already talked about, but also US versus world will often kind of dance to the same tune as these other relationships, just due to the weightings, right? US would be tech, world would be value, just like with small is value, large is tech. Are you looking at those ratios and starting to think, hey, maybe investing outside of the US in the back half of the year in 2025 might be the playbook?
Yeah, and I'm always keeping tabs on what the rest of the world is doing. I was just looking at it this morning, actually, and of all ETFs that I track, international ETFs, there's really only right now, I think it was Turkey and India in a relative strength measure that is, that I use a smoothing mechanism to plot that they're the only ones that are showing strength right now. And so while there might be a bottom getting put in emerging, Europe as a whole is at the upper right of its chart. From a relative perspective, there's still some work to do internationally. Some of that might be a dollar story, some of it might be a sector story, but I think we've seen a lot of false starts in that arena as well. And again, I'm not willing to call that until we see any sort of sustained move in that relative relationship.
Can you define sustained? Like longer than now, right?
Yeah. So more than just the rebound. If you're looking at just throwing a moving average on there, how long can that relationship stay above a certain moving average? Let's call it like a 50-day, right? And so how long can it stay there? As I said, one of my preferred measures is looking at on a weekly chart using a 21-week exponential moving average of that relationship, and where that relative strength line sits in relation to that EMA.
Nice. Are you paying attention to any earnings we're getting, or not really?
I mean, I see them. I see the reaction to the earnings, which I think is more important for what we do. So Alphabet, it's weird calling it Alphabet. Everybody calls it Google, right? I saw that they beat across the board. I didn't see what they guided, but I did see that they beat, and they're trading lower this morning. So every time it matters more what the market thinks of the earnings instead of what the actual earnings were. And so
always.
One interesting note about Alphabet is it's a big part of XLC, the communication sector, and XLC is running into its prior highs into resistance. So it had one of the biggest round trips that you could possibly ask for after 2022. It's marched all the way back up into those prior highs, and we're seeing a pullback now. So is that selling pressure? Is that bleeding down into the components of the communication sector? That could be one of the reasons. It could be just tech in general. So it remains to be seen. But also on a relative basis, communications has been somewhat rolling over as well. It's right now sitting below that 21 exponential moving average on a weekly basis that I talk about. So it's been running out of steam after the furious rally from the bottom.
When you see stocks like Google that have been doing so well for so long, it's not uncommon for individual companies or even the whole market to peak on good news that's just no longer good enough. Right? The end of trends. It's not like this. Google's report was great. I think they beat on like every revenue segment.
Not YouTube.
They missed on YouTube. They beat on the others. Like, it was a fine report. It was an excellent report. This company literally prints money. It's insane. You see their quarterly interest income. They make $1 billion. They're a net lender. We talk about interest rates don't really matter for the big techs. But that's what happens towards the end. And so if they don't reverse this and they're selling Google on a beat, that feels more like the later innings of a trend than the early innings, right, David?
Yeah, it feels like everything has been priced in up to this point, and now even when they beat expectations, which is just a consensus measure, now you're looking at everybody looking to get out while the getting's good. So, and it could just be a pullback in an uptrend, right? We don't know that until we see the final cards on the table. But I think the tech trade in general got overextended. If we want to talk tweets, I had another one about June 20th when NVIDIA hit its top. I got more calls that day from people that you would never expect to talk about buying NVIDIA. And so I tweeted out, I just received the third call a day asking about buying NVIDIA, and that marked the top in that stock for the moment. So sentiment is one thing that you can track, and that's more anecdotal than anything, but it was definitely something that perked my ears up.
Yeah.
I think this is the first mention of NVIDIA on this show in 3 weeks.
It's funny how that happens, right?
I mean,
done a good job. Wow.
Hear me out though. Buy NVIDIA at 118, just trade this range. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Well, that's one style of doing it. I prefer much more of like a trend following momentum, moving average type of trade. I don't really try to do the counter trend moves.
All right. Yeah, I was half serious. Half joking. So,
Talk to us about some of the value groups. Industrials has kind of always been there, been working. It's probably working maybe better and more broadly now, but you got financials joining the party. Are you keeping an eye on some of the commodity groups like materials and energy?
Yeah, so commodities is an interesting one. I was looking at like a ratio of base metals to precious metals the other day, copper versus gold. That's broken down to levels that we haven't seen since 2021. And a lot of people will read into that as a kind of a harbinger of bad times for the market or the economy, the global economy. Yeah. That ratio has essentially bottomed since 2009, I think, when the commodity super cycle wore off, and maybe we're still working off those excesses. I'm not in tune with like the supply side of things, so maybe more copper is being pulled out of the ground than gold. Don't know. But the commodities is, I think, something that it's showing its hand in not only from a relative standpoint, but also from an absolute standpoint. We're not really seeing a ton of bids like lumber. I saw yesterday it was breaking down. So commodities are going to obviously be an input to the manufacturing cycle. And so when I joined on today, I heard you guys talking about GE. GE, that chart has never ceased to amaze me in the run up from the bottom. And we saw a very standard sideways movement to work off some of those excesses. And then we saw it up over 5% yesterday based on the report. So I know GE very well, being from upstate New York. Schenectady, New York is right down the road for me. And so like GE, everybody that is from this area, if you have individual stocks in your portfolio, guaranteed GE is going to be one of them. So it's something that is near and dear to my heart as far as the conversation piece. It would be nice, though, to see the industrial sector, the financials, real estate, things that are not necessarily beaten down, but underperforming relative to the overall market. It would be nice to see them participate, give us asset managers or investment allocators more of an opportunity to outperform a benchmark in that period of time.
Yep. I had a similar experience with GE. Their corporate headquarters up until I think 2016, 17, they moved to Boston, was in Fairfield, Connecticut.
Yep.
Town over from me, and everybody's dad worked at GE and everybody had stock, and it was a big deal.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like right back to the levels that it was in like 2017, 2016 when it broke down. I remember that because it got like a bump when Immelt retired. And everybody said like, oh, great, the Immelt's gone. We're going to get back to the glory days. And just my own 2 cents on that is I think Immelt gets a lot of blame for a situation he inherited. I don't think he did anything to improve it that much, but he inherited a conglomerate of various revenue sources that honestly, they shouldn't have been grouped together. And now that we've split them up into different businesses, you can see the potential of the aerospace, the healthcare, and the green energy.
You know, it's hilarious how quickly time can change things, because when I was doing my master's at Fairfield University, that school was like built by GE over the years. And they taught us that Jack Welch was one of the greatest CEOs of all time. We learned about him and he was in the textbooks back then. It wasn't 5 years later that he was absolutely disgraced CEO who absolutely ruined everything for GE. So yeah, maybe you wait a little bit longer before you start putting things in the textbooks in the future. I don't know how you do that. But the new guy I thought was interesting. They wanted him for the Boeing job, but he wanted to stay at GE. I think that says good things for GE in the future.
Probably a good choice on his part too.
Yeah, I wouldn't go to Boeing.
He was walking into a shitstorm. I mean,
yeah.
David, do you dabble with the cryptos or anything like that? Are you involved?
I have some for my personal account, and it's funny. I saw your tweet a couple days ago, Steve, about the Solana summer, and Solana is something that I think is it's so funny how well it trades with regards to technicals. We saw it peak around 125. We put in a little bit of a cup and handle from that moment. It broke out to, I think, close to about 200. And then it's pulled back in a very orderly fashion. It tested 125 a couple times. It's recently broken out of that downtrend from the peak at 200. And this morning I saw it was up. It bounced right off the 8-day EMA. And it's one of the only cryptos, at least the big ones that I track, that is relatively strong versus Bitcoin. Bitcoin is similar to the big cap tech trade. It's been the only game in town in crypto. I mean, I'm sure there's some lesser coins that are doing well in a short period of time, but Solana's been holding up really well from a relative standpoint too.
You make such a great point just about kind of the thin market that we've been in, dominated by the mega caps. In the stock market, the S&P 500 is the traditional benchmark that you analyze relative trends against, and it's near impossible to beat for most stocks because it's being dragged higher by the Mag 7 names, so not many stocks have been able to outperform the S&P 500. When you do the same exercise in crypto, we really don't have great indexes. You really just want to bench them against Bitcoin. That's the big boy. When you bench against Bitcoin, it's hard to beat them, right? So that's like this thin market that we've been in. Crypto's been no different.
Yeah. And even Ethereum with the ETF that launched yesterday, the relative strength line is still down. It's tested it a couple times, but I haven't seen any sort of positive momentum in that regard. This is actually something that we talked about last time I was on, and I think that was like back in November. It's continuing on that downtrend. And so maybe the ETF is a catalyst. Maybe the ETF is a sell the news event for Ethereum. We don't know, but in crypto, it's basically been Bitcoin and Solana as the two major places to allocate money outside of maybe some obscure things that I'm not even aware of.
Sorry, my mic volume was low. Do you think of them as other stocks, like these big cryptos?
So obviously they don't produce any earnings or anything like that, and that's maybe that's why they trade clean from a technical perspective. There's not anything. It's the purest form of supply and demand. Yeah. I think it is. I don't know where the crypto industry is headed. I was a doubter back in the day. I've since come around, and I think the longer it stays around, the less you can deny that it's going to be a feature of our lives for the future. Yeah. And I don't know if maybe Bitcoin is like the AOL or something that's the first mover in the space, and everything else catches up and surpasses it. It's an interesting and exciting time because now it represents a whole different asset class, and you're seeing a lot more friendly access to the everyday investor. You don't have to be a tech genius to get in there. There's a lot of things that will facilitate people's investments now, like especially the ETF world, and so you're seeing a lot of adoption both on a retail and institutional perspective. And that can only mean good things for the stability of that market and then what they can do with the inflowing capital to produce projects and come up with new ideas and innovate.
Yep, love it.
And also, market's maturing. We just got an Ethereum ETF. We're going to get a Solana ETF one of these months, maybe end of the year. I mean, that can only be a good thing, I feel like. So
yeah, and you're seeing all the bankers kind of change their tune. Jamie Dimon has definitely changed his stance on crypto in general, and I think that's a positive development for him as a person, but also from an industry perspective. Because as I said, I used to be one of those people who was very bearish on the idea of crypto back in like 2016, 2017. It's just a fad. I've since come around and realized that it probably does have a spot for us in the global financial market.
You get a lot of questions from clients about it, or mostly just questions about GE?
No, I most of our clients are retirees, and so we have GE. We have a few that are that dabble in crypto, but my phone line is definitely not ringing off the hook when it comes to that.
David, before we let you go, most important question. It might be just as hard as the European sovereign sponsor from JC last time. How many wins for our New York Giants this year? So
I have to tread carefully here because I'm going to put a bet in on the season total, and I'm probably going to put a significant amount of money on it because I am an eternal Giants optimist. My friends laugh at me all the time for it because I always see the better side of things. But they won 6 games last year with Tommy DeVito, Tyrod Taylor starting at quarterback. The offensive line gave up the most sacks in history. And they should have won the game against the Bills. They were on the 1 yard line at the end. They should have won the game against the Jets. They missed a field goal against the Rams. They had the worst possible season you could have, and they could have won 9 games out of there. So 6.5 is the total for those interested. I think you know where I'll be sitting.
Hell yeah.
They can win 8 games. I just brought up the schedule. They can win 8 games.
Yeah, dude.
I think they can win more than that. I think
8, 10?
Yeah, I think they're going to surprise some people this year.
All right.
Are you watching Hard Knocks on HBO?
I was up early this morning watching last night's episode. I love it.
I love you. That's fantastic. I haven't watched yet, but I'm excited. I know it just came out.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
All right.
Go New York
David
Sports.
Rath, thanks for coming on again, man. We'll have to do this again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
7-win season for the G-men.
10.
No, I said 8, and he was like, "Oh no,"
10.
So maybe 9, 10. I don't know.
I think the over-under is 6.5 is what he was saying.
That's what he said. But he also said he was taking the over. So
Oh, yeah.
we'll see. All right.
Look, anything could happen. Anything could happen.
The hell?
Anything could happen. Danny Dimes, man.
Sorry, my browser just seized up. Okay, I'm back.
Mark is about
we're about to open here. Can we?
Pat Riley, also from Schenectady, Schenectady High School.
Pat Riley.
Okay. There's a good movie that I think takes place in Schenectady called The Place Beyond the Pines. But anyway, moving on. I want to talk about this LW chart. This is your disaster stock of the day. You people need to eat more potatoes. Okay, that's the bottom line here. I don't know what's going on. I eat potatoes. We in this house, we eat potatoes. You guys apparently don't eat potatoes because the stock is down. You can see the chart there. That doesn't even include the 20% down move in the pre-market this morning. Their earnings were a disaster. They missed on the top and the bottom line. Their guidance was equally as bad. And they said next year is going to suck too.
I think, I think it was the one Black Eyed Peas who said this shit is bananas. This shit is potatoes. And people aren't eating them, Spencer, because they're not on the Perlman program. They're not on the Perlman program. Potatoes are not good for you, really. And
no, I know
sell frozen ones anyway. They they do like cafeteria style, like big potato bags. Like I don't think they own like Ore-Ida or the ones that we get in the grocery store.
Yeah, well, so this is what they said. They said the over the past 12 months, both restaurant traffic and frozen potato demand has softened, which they blamed on menu price inflation. So yeah, they sell a lot wholesale to restaurants, and they sell frozen potatoes in grocery stores, and people aren't buying either, apparently.
Dude, let me tell you something. Dude, I make the best potatoes. You want to know the secret? You want to know the secret to the best potatoes ever?
No. Roast them with rosemary?
You put for 3 times as many onions as potatoes in the potatoes. That's how you make the best potatoes ever.
That's smart.
3-to-1 ratio.
Because they have no.
I used to do 2-to-1, and that was total amateur hour. You got to go 3-to-1.
Okay. Well,
can we just marvel at how cool it is that this company built themselves on selling potatoes and have a market cap above 10 billion still?
They're from Idaho. They're from Idaho. It's like a
cool.
thing.
It's pretty cool.
It's a thing there.
Okay. Well,
we used to have the
we
great
just opened
Idaho Potato Bowl.
We just opened below 60 in this thing.
Potato Empire. What?
The stock just opened below 60. Just to put that in context, this thing was $100 last year, 117. It was $100. It's $100 this year. It's $100 not long ago. $100 in March.
When you go to old pubs in Dublin, they have like old newspaper clippings of the potato famine, like up like on the wall and stuff like that. It was really something.
That's cool.
Next time you're in Dublin, check it out.
Is this going to be a turnaround Wednesday, guys? I got to go YOLO some things.
What is it that needs to turn around exactly?
Tech. Everybody's looking at tech, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's like we always say, right? You buy weakness in uptrends, and that's exactly what we got. So I know a lot of people that went shopping in the last couple weeks in names like Meta.
Small cap tech is on pace for an all-time high close here.
What?
Like if you don't want to chase, this has been great for you. If you want more tech,
I think it's really just a large cap thing. Small cap tech is acting very well.
Yeah, okay, that's what I mean. I don't know many people buying small cap tech or small caps as a general thing. Tech is synonymous.
We talk about them every day here.
tech is synonymous with mega cap tech. That's really what it is for most people.
Maybe for simpletons.
For most people.
Well, most people must be simpletons then, because that's dumb.
That doesn't make them wrong.
I think it does. I think it does.
Okay.
I think it makes them very, very wrong. And there's an arbitrage there. People who think that tech is these $3 trillion companies and that's all that tech is, then they deserve to lose. I think that's dumb.
So
I think small tech is a humongous arena. In fact,
yeah, it is.
From a market weighting wise, technology is the largest weighting in the small cap indexes. I don't know if you're aware of that, Mr. Spencer Israel.
And the large cap. So,
JC, are you ready to say small cap tech PSCT over large cap tech XLK?
I don't think it's that simple. I think rather than owning a basket, I'm just not a big fan of owning baskets of small caps. You know what I mean? So maybe, but like from an execution standpoint, like, are we even going to do anything about that? Like,
we wouldn't do that.
Literally going to buy?
We would buy the best ones. We would just buy the best ones.
That's exactly right. You buy the best ones.
But I do think that we're going to get to a place where you would rather own ARK than XLK before this cycle's over. I think people should be prepared for that. It's good. Yeah, Spencer's going to make a face. See, people who aren't used to how these things work are going to make faces.
Yeah. Okay, maybe for like a little bit. Sure.
It's called recency bias. No, probably a quarter or two.
A quarter or two. That's a long time.
Do you think ARK outperforms XLK ever again? Or no, it's just over?
I mean, how many tech stocks are even in ARK?
What? It's mostly tech.
It's 28% tech. So no, that's
a lot.
That's incorrect.
Dude, they're all growth. It's
the biggest component. One of the biggest components is healthcare.
So they're all
fine.
Just
you got
there's a lot of healthcare in there
15%
too.
Financials. You got 15% consumer discretionary, 21% healthcare. So no.
Synonymous.
If you
again,
financial, then that's up to you. But they're all tech stocks. I promise.
All right.
Steve, when you say when you ask, do I think ARK will ever outperform tech? It depends on the time frame. Like for a week, for a month, sure.
For a quarter.
Quarter's a long time. Yeah. Of course, it can happen.
We are close, people.
Of course, it can happen.
Yeah, I think it happens. I gotta go, guys.
All right,
go trade. It's gonna go trade, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a good reminder that oversimplifying categories, I think it's silly, particularly in small caps, and in some of these mega cap indexes that are being driven by a handful of names. That's one thing. But when you go down the cap scale, there's a lot. There's, even in an environment where a particular small cap sector is outperforming and as a leadership group, you're going to find big losers in there. And in an environment where, there's a lot of small caps going down and we're in a bear market, you're going to find big winners in there. So just a reminder, don't oversimplify the categories, right?
Okay.
There's opportunities there.
Yeah. Definitely. That's always good to know. 9:35. JC, let's take a quick look at the market. 5 minutes in. Anything jump out to us?
Yeah, Dow's down 150 points. S&P's down 1%. NASDAQ down almost 2%. You've got the 30-year bond futures are flat. Oil's up almost a full percent, just under 78. Gold's up 0.5%. Silver's up 60 bips. So gold above 2,400. Silver still under 30. And then over in funny money land, you've got Ethereum that just started trading on the ETF yesterday, still under 3,500. Bitcoin up 700 points, full percent today, 66,600. Solana still up 3%, just under 180. Binance up a little bit. Crypto's up across the board. Pepe up. If you want to throw up, where's my chart? Throw up slide 6 there. You could see Pepe now $5.3 billion in market capitalization. So this is like after the blue chip meme tokens of Doge and Shiba, Pepe would be the third largest here at $5.3 billion in market capitalization, third largest meme token. And what I see is former resistance turning into support, former resistance turning into support, right? Looks like a stair step higher to me.
Sorry, I was distracted. I was looking at the alphabet chart. down 5%. I think worst day since October so far. I mean, 5 minutes into the day here, but you don't see Alphabet down 5% every day.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's all the way back to where it was a month ago, right?
Yeah, no, I know. I'm not freaking out. I'm just, commenting.
These were the highs, by the way. These were the highs on April the 26th, which, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the last time they reported earnings. Do I have that right?
Sounds right. Yeah.
So that day when Google peaked, the Google just opened there. So that former resistance from the last earnings is now support. So that polarity plays. So if you're looking to buy Google, I like Google long against those former highs.
Yeah, that's funny how. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That Lily, that opening gap on the 26th.
That's right. It's
Funny
almost
how
like
that
the
works
market
out.
has memory, Spencer. Almost, huh?
Gaps are a funny thing. I'm fascinated by gaps in charts because they seem to be like magnets, right?
Yeah, a lot of times, except and then when they're not acting like magnets, to your point, that's evidence of strength. When people are like, "Oh, all gaps get filled," well, that's obviously not true. In fact, the best breakouts, the gaps by definition don't get filled, right? So I think that what you're describing here is spot on with those magnets. It's when those magnets don't become magnets that is real. That's evidence of a lot of strength. So
It's
yes.
it's probably my favorite chart phenomenon is the phenomenon of gaps and just how they happen. And then
Do you have a particularly favorite type of gap? Is it maybe a breakaway gap, maybe a measuring gap, perhaps an exhaustion gap? I don't know what kind of a gap and go. Maybe
no, I don't have a favorite type of gap. I kind of treat them all the same, just in terms of
I really like the gap and goes.
Gap and goes are good when you're long, sure. Yeah, they're great.
They
But
suck when you're short.
I'm equally as interested in those like island gaps, right? Like was it Snapchat that had that a huge gap up, huge
Yeah,
gap down,
those
right?
kind of like vacuum. Those kind of like
Yeah,
vacuum areas. Yeah, Netflix a couple years ago. Right.
yeah.
Yep,
I
that's
just think
exactly right.
it's such a great, such
Strazza
a cool
personal
phenomenon.
favorite setup there.
Okay. Maybe Mary has a favorite gap. I don't know. You want to ask her?
Definitely does. She just passed CMT level 2, so she's studying all about all different kinds of gaps.
All right. Well, let's ask her.
First of all, can we just give a big shout out to Mary? Congratulations, passing level 2 of the CMT, now officially a CMT level 3 candidate, Mary.
Who would have thought?
Very impressive.
Thank
Very
you.
impressive. Mary, not telling any of us at all that she was studying for level 1. Surprised us in New York in January with the passing score. Surprised us again last week with the passing score of CMT level 2. So for those of you guys that are interested in technical analysis and learning more, the CMT is, it's not like, oh my God, I passed the CMT, so now I'm the smartest person ever. No. Once you pass your CMT, that's when the learning begins, right? The CMT process, and I want to hear your thoughts on them, Mary. It's really just a body of knowledge. It's just about having an understanding of all of the things going on, right? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first started studying for level 1, I was actually really surprised at what I was studying and what I was learning because, I became, obviously through studying, I became a better trader, but in doing that, it was because I was learning more about risk management and more about indicators that I can use and trying all these different indicators and seeing how they work and fit in with my process, intermarket analysis and finding the relative strength and candlestick patterns and being able to recognize bullish and bearish candlestick patterns. I mean, it was just putting together all of this information that, of course, I have heard from you guys here on the team and read on Twitter and have, see on, charts and that kind of stuff. But being able to put it all together in one big picture and then being able to take that information and then use it in my trading, that has been game changing for me. So, yeah, it's kind of, a second half of a life type of thing where I am not trained or educated in finance or the markets. and so this was kind of wanted to take a step out and learn something new, and
And
it's
what
made
about
all the
Carrie?
difference.
Are we going to get Carrie to take these tests too or not?
Probably not. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe we can convince her.
I got one more question.
Yeah.
How for CMT level 1, do you think you could have passed without studying just because of hanging out with us every day for a few years? Or no?
I don't think so. If I had some sort of formal education in college with business or finance, econ, anything like that, probably. But I feel one of the main reasons that I was able to pass now level 1 and level 2 is, of course, I did take a ton of time to study, but I've been hanging around with you guys for several years, obviously the last couple of years here on the team, and much more internal access to being able to listen and learn from all of you. That has made all of the difference, because it initially set me up when I started studying in understanding what I was already reading about. And so yeah, it's been life changing.
What's your favorite kind of gap?
Oh, definitely well, I mean, isn't a breakaway gap a gap and go?
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's my favorite.
breakaway gap. Yeah, me
Yeah.
too, Mary. See,
They're probably the most
Spencer, you paying
fun.
attention?
Yeah.
When's
What's
Spencer
that?
going to get his CMT?
Okay, so I knew that was coming, and I have an answer
If
prepared.
I
for this.
can do it, you can do it. Seriously.
I have an answer
Spencer.
prepared,
Give it to me.
and I think there's value in diversity of background and diversity of knowledge, right? And so when you have everybody on the team with the same knowledge subset, you can maybe fall into some patterns and not recognize certain things. But if you have some people that don't have a certain background and don't have certain knowledge, then it lets you. I think it's just diversity of thought is better. And
Are you getting your CFA, fucker?
No, that's not what I'm implying at all. But that would have been a good response to that. No, I'm not. I don't have the patience for that. But
If you want to study for your sommelier, I'll help you.
no, I'm just saying, just from a business standpoint, I think having people who don't all have the same knowledge set is helpful.
It's true.
Because I'm just a normie.
No,
I'm
it's
just
true.
a
Since we
regular
have
old
so many
normie.
well-educated people on the team, we should just hire dumb, uneducated people to get that.
That's kind of what I'm saying. That's kind of what I'm saying. Yeah.
All right, Mary, what are we buying? Give it to me. What do we got? It's a bull market.
It's a bull market. Yeah. And so, I haven't seen you for the last couple of weeks, JC. So, I mean, I've been trading. There's been a lot of trading and a lot of money being made. So kudos to the team for awesome trade ideas. So I've been pretty all in. And so in the last week or so, I've just kind of been managing positions and taking some of the winners a little bit off the table. Haven't redeployed that money yet. I'm watching Tesla today just to kind of see, kind of the reaction here, just because it's in a very interesting area in my mind. Just because if you take VWAP and anchor it to the all-time high back in October of 21, that VWAP comes into about the 230 area. And then if you also anchor VWAP to July of 23, which was another local high, that comes in at around 220. You've got that downtrend that we were making and broke out of a couple weeks ago. And so it's just a very interesting area. I'm watching to see kind of if we reclaim some of those. And if we do, I'm going to start adding back to that position. I still have the position on. But I did take a little bit off maybe a week or two ago, and I'll be looking to add more, especially if we can kind of find a little bottom here and start to reverse. We'll see. So I'm watching Tesla today. Also, one that popped up on my radar, kind of going outside of what you guys have been talking about, and going back to energy, Valero is kind of right back at an area of interest. This is where I got involved the first time around a few months ago, and right at the beginning of 2024, participated in that huge move up. Great winner for me, and I've kept it on my radar and my watch list. And so now that I see that we're kind of trading right back down here, I'm looking to see if this becomes support. Prior resistance now becoming support, right? And we'll see what happens with this one. Not involved yet, just kind of keeping an eye on it, but definitely an area of interest that I'm watching. What do you think about energy, JC?
There's a lot of charts that look exactly like this, Mary, particularly in
Exactly.
the energy space.
Yep.
And then when you look at these refiners, these are the leaders within that space. When you dive in short term over the last couple of weeks in Valero, you're really seeing that coil like tight, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing it in Marathon, not as strong on the Marathon, but you're certainly seeing it there. Phillips 66 is another one that we probably want to keep a close eye on. There's a few of these names that are coiling tight, that are retesting that former resistance. And we continue to get sector rotation. So
exactly.
If you've been betting against sectors rotating, that has been a mistake. If you've been betting on sectors rotating, that has been consistently profitable for a few years now.
It just hasn't happened yet with this sector.
No, we've gotten positive rotation into energy over the last couple of years. You're saying you're saying in the last quarter.
I was talking about right now. Yeah, right now.
Oh yeah, right. That's the point, right?
Hasn't
So if you're gonna
yet.
bet on sector rotation, there it is.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm watching Bitcoin and the miners. Always, that's where I always go for my junky junk. So I've been adding to my Solana position and had a couple of nice places to get a little bit more exposure here in the last couple of weeks. Some of the miners are at some really interesting points too, of kind of going back and retesting former support. So we'll see. Bitcoin is always a fun one to play. So that's got my interest as well right now.
There have been trades to jump this move, and I've been patient, and I'm gonna put on a serious position when these things break out, like a serious, real life-changing position, like similar to when we broke out above 31.
Yep.
Being patient has paid off. I think there's a big trade coming here. Big trade.
Oh, for sure. I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Sweet.
Mark's asking about Blink in the chat. This is a chart that I've shared a couple of times, I think, while you've been gone, JC. For me, Blink above the close above 350 is key, but I still really like the trade. I'm still in it from I think a week or two ago. It's a great base. It still just hasn't been able to get moving past that 350 area. So keep an eye on it. I like it, but that's just me.
These engineering and construction companies, I mean, it's a little small, right?
Yep. Blink charging. But a nice base.
EV infrastructure.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yep.
Got it. So it's one of those like industrials that are really technology.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly trades like a shitty technology stock. I'll tell you that much. Look at this thing getting crushed.
Yep.
Jeez Louise.
I didn't say it was a pretty one.
Batteries give cancer or something? What happened there?
Oh, it's EVs, man.
Yep.
So what? EVs just got killed. It's just the whole EV thing.
Where you been?
But the chart reminds me of Robinhood, and that one paid off. So we'll see.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Big base.
Big base.
All right.
All right. Let's do some recess and hop out of here.
Do it. I got to tell you, my Tuscan chicken is delicious. It really is so good. And it's idiot proof. It's just an irresponsible amount of shallots, right? Like whenever you think you have too many shallots, throw some more in there, right? Dice them up real nice. Little garlic, cherry tomatoes, right? Cherry tomatoes in the saucepan, right? So instead of using like tomato paste, like actually letting the cherry tomatoes kind of dwindle down. So you got the garlic, you got the shallots, you got the cherry tomatoes, right? And then once the whole kitchen smells amazing, then you throw in some chicken broth, really clean up that pan. You throw in the heavy cream. You put on, I like Locatel instead of Parmesan. It's got less of that foul sort of Parmesan taste, right? Locatel is a little bit, simpler. And now you got like this beautiful sauce. You throw in the chicken, spinach. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It makes me so happy.
Why are we not doing a cooking segment with JC? I mean, it seems like every couple of weeks he has some new recipe or some new, cooking, grilling, and I don't know.
You know his secret?
I kill it.
His secret, Mary, is he only has 6, but he just rotates.
Yeah, I do ribs, wings, steaks, chicken,
Yeah,
All right.
it's just a rotation.
I don't do that. I don't get that creative. But the ones I do, I do very well. Very well. Little oxtails once a month. You know, my oxtails are ridiculous.
Mary, what's this picture? What's
Yeah.
this?
So back in the spring, I was telling you guys about how I grow all these tulips, and tulips are my thing in the spring. So this year I started. So kind of here in Michigan, rule is you can pull up the tulip bulbs and plant dahlia bulbs. And so I planted a huge row of dahlias. So this has now become probably my second favorite flower. And now my dahlias are coming up. And so these are a couple of the first blooms that I got of this season. And then once, we get our first frost, I pull up the dahlia bulbs and then I put the tulip bulbs in for next spring. So I love flowers. I think it's because living here in Michigan, it's cold and gray and dark for like 9 months of the year. So I just need all the color. Hence why I wear colored clothes. I just need all the color.
Mary, is it a coincidence? The tulips, and you live in Holland, like.
Well, yeah.
It's not a coincidence.
Is there a thing there?
Yes.
Oh, it's a big thing. Yeah. So we've got it's called the Tulip Time Festival. It's a big weeks long thing. I mean, we've got hundreds of thousands, probably actually millions of tulips that get planted by the city all over town, and yeah, it's big Dutch settlement.
I was going to say, is there a lot of Dutch? Was it a big Dutch settlement? Obviously,
it was. Yep.
And when was this? 1800s, early 1800s?
Yes, something like that. I don't know the exact year.
And then you guys eat all the Dutch pastries, because the Dutch don't mess around with the pastries. We got some of the Dutch around here.
Yeah, we got the pigs in the blankets. Yeah, pig in the blankets and stroppels and windmill cookies. So yeah, we've got a couple of authentic Dutch bakeries, and
you eat the strudel waffles. The strudel waffles, those are good.
Something like that. Yeah, I can't pronounce any of this stuff.
What about the kiffles? You guys got kiffles?
Oh, I'm not familiar with that. I'm sure we do.
It must be a Pennsylvania Dutch thing. These kiffles will kill you. They're so good.
The Pennsylvania Dutch are their own type of Dutch.
In the chat, apricot kiffles. Anybody? Oh, they're so good.
I know. I'm not a flower guy, but I got to admit, Mary, those are some pretty looking flowers.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure I'll come back with some more. So
okay.
Luckily, these last a lot longer than my tulips. So the tulips are kind of they bloom and then they're done like in a week or two. So.
My only recess is, do you guys know what today is? Two things are happening today, actually.
Big day, actually.
And I want to talk about both of them for a second. The first is our next live event, which is today at 4:00. The link is in the chat. It's actually, link is in the description. It's the very first link in the description. It's right there on the screen as well. Live event Wednesday. That's today. It is Wednesday. 4 p.m. Eastern time. Totally free. You want to be there, and you'll find out why when you're there.
Mary's sister Carrie is the one who is most excited. I'm getting text messages from Carrie this morning. She's all fired up, ready to go, like it's Christmas. So shout out, Carrie. Very excited about this. And all we're going to talk about today is that we're in a bull market and we're looking for trades where we're not looking to make 10, 20%. We are looking for 100% trades at a minimum, specifically looking for 3x, 5x, 8x trades. That's what this is all about. If you're not interested in making that much money, please don't come. This is only specifically looking for grand slam trades. Go big or go home. That's what this is all about. Let's go.
Well,
I can't wait for this one. I'm so excited.
Today is the start of the Olympics, everyone. Summer Olympics, they're here. The opening ceremony is not till Friday, but the Olympics actually start today with some soccer. I don't know who's playing. I'm not going to watch it, but Olympics are here, and I love the Olympics, and I'm so excited, and I can't wait to watch archery and biathlon and all the obscure sports. Swimming, I love swimming. It's great. It's great. I love the Olympics, and I'm so excited. So that's all I have to say about that.
Hey, have you guys logged into Rangefinder today?
Hey, I have, as a matter of fact.
Spoiler alert.
Nice, doesn't it?
Those of you in Rangefinder will be getting an email very shortly. But yeah, we got a little bit of a facelift. Looks really good.
Yeah,
looks really good.
Shout out to Brett and the whole team. Fantastic. Sick.
Yeah, they did a tremendous job. It looks wonderful. All right, that is our show. So it's Wednesday, and this is it. So we're done. Thanks to David Rath for hanging out. Thanks to Mary. Thanks to Kenny. Thanks to all of you in the chat. We love you. Go trade. Go or don't. I suppose. Go make some money. We'll see you at 4:00. All right.
We'll see you at 4.
don't take no